Today's episode of the Clearly Distorted podcast is brought to you by the letter D.
What's up, everyone? I'm Damien. That's Julian. This is Clearly Distorted Podcast, episode 2. Thank you for joining us. Got some hot topics today. Some topics that might get us canceled. Or does cancel culture even exist? What do you think?
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about right now, cancel culture. Now, I may have a different take on this than even the average person, probably different take than Damien. We've briefly spoken about this before, but here's my thing. In light of everything that's happened with Kanye West and even recently Donald Trump making anti-Semitic remarks and the both of them doing these kind of things, I know there's been a lot of narrative about centered around them being canceled and cancel culture and not being able to speak and speak your mind. And I know that's something that kind of frequently happens, but cancel culture is a myth. Now, I could end it there, but I know a lot of people are going to have issues with that. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit further. This isn't some cherry pick where someone lost their job because they said something offensive or sent a dick pic, to someone when they were 18 years old. It's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the idea that this is a cultural problem, because it's not. Now, what I'm about to say also relates to cancel culture, wokeism, and a lot of things coming from the right that people aren't quite aware of. And this relates strongly to cancel culture, and that is that white supremacy is a business. And let me say that again. White supremacy is a business. It's very important for people to understand that concept. And let me elaborate a little further. When people say things like celebrities, when they say things that's inflammatory and can upset others, especially marginalized communities, for some reason it seems to tickle the fancy of a lot of these garbage ass people, all these fanboys out here that just, love to hear that shit, right? And then these garbage ass people invest in watching these celebrities say these hot takes, especially if it's racist, especially if it's anti-Semitic, especially if it's homophobic. It's just been the trend that we've been seeing over and over. There's big money in being an asshole, and that's always been in the case. That's always been the case, but now the new thing, the new big business, is to talk this kind of stuff on talk radio, on podcasts, on whatever TV show you got going. And if you think about Alex Jones and Kanye West and Donald Trump, they've all been wildly successful because of these things. Politicians have been doing it for years, kind of wink, wink, but now it's kind of spreading. So the rest of society, we don't give a shit about this, right? We walk around, we're oblivious to a lot of this stuff. We're taking our kids to work, to school, we're going to work. We're not thinking about any of this stuff. We're not focused on it. And it doesn't happen until we become the targets. So with everything happening with Kanye West and Alex Jones being sued for $1 billion, and now the George Floyd family, they are suing Kanye West for the things that he recently said. Maybe it's time that we stop looking at this thing as sort of some sort of culture and maybe start embracing accountability, because that's what this really is about, right? There's no culture behind being canceled. Dave Chappelle, after his remarks about transgender people, he's still working. Joe Rogan, after his Planet of the Apes thing, he's still working. They haven't been canceled. What's happening is small groups, disenfranchised groups complain. And then the right wing makes it all about the left. Oh, the entire left, all the millennials, all the young people, everyone is with this cancel culture. And it's not. It's small, marginalized communities, if that, complaining because they are constantly being hurt and attacked. And somehow we've turned this into a culture of canceling everyone, which isn't true. So all it is a myth conjured up by those who do not want to be held accountable for the things that they say and the pain that they inflict. Dane, what do you think?
You're not gonna believe it.
Bruh. I probably won't.
I agree.
Woo! Man, end the show.
I was a little reluctant, but the point you made about it really being a matter of accountability, I think, is what drives it home, and I really think that's what it comes down to. And I kind of had the same thought, when I saw the Floyd family suing Kanye West for the things that the things that he said, and it drove me back to the Alex Jones lawsuit. It's pretty much you're on notice now. You can no longer say whatever the fuck you want. You can no longer say these outlandish things, to create clickbait. Everyone's on notice. You better be factual. You better be accurate. That inflammatory shit is about to go. My only concern with this would be people becoming too sensitive. I'm not saying that any of the topics we discussed that's the case, but that's just a concern that will start to drive and push this thing even further and further. I think people should be accountable if they're saying something wrong, if they're saying lies, they should be accountable. But I think we should be able to differentiate that between that and maybe being offensive.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Bill Maher, he does this show every week now, and he's just turned into somebody who's, I guess, basically convinced that wokeism and cancel culture is just so prominent that comedians and regular people just can't say what they want to say. We've gotten to the point now where maybe using certain slurs isn't acceptable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could express yourself without attacking any particular group. And I think that bothers a lot of people. A lot of people get sensitive to it, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
But my theory is I remember when we were talking about, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's like a fan of like the Redskins or something. And I was saying how, like, they should change the Redskins and that whole controversy.
I know you don't watch football, but they have changed the name.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, okay. I'm talking past tense.
Gotcha.
So it was the whole big to-do about that whole thing. And I remember the statement that she made to me was, well, I know plenty of Native Americans who are not offended by that. So her argument, I couldn't agree with it, because I was like, just because there are some people not offended doesn't take away from the people who are offended by it.
Right.
So, you as a Black person, me as a Puerto Rican person, and if somebody said, yo, look at that spick or whatever, I may be fine with it, but someone else might not be. You might catch some knuckles for saying some shit like that to the wrong person. So
right.
That's as far as the sensitivity part. Like, I think we should be, instead of worried about being sensitive, I think we should be just worried about being more considerate. But maybe that's my liberal brain thinking or talking.
We'll leave it there.
We got to evolve, baby. We got to evolve, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, this topic has been most prominent in the world of comedy. And, there's an old saying that, we laugh to keep from crying. Right. And sometimes, it's just, we're picking out our own scabs, and it doesn't necessarily mean the intention is to offend anybody, although the intent is not always what matters, because the perception is a lot of times what the most important thing is. So that's where we get into, you know, being too sensitive or not being open-minded enough to receive the joke how it was intended or what have you.
But on the flip, the person who makes the joke,
yes,
should also be open to understanding the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? So if I make a racially charged joke, you know, against Asians or whatever, and everyone in the room is laughing, including a bunch of Asian people, and there are some people who are, you know, genuinely upset over it, I should be able to have thick enough skin, if I'm going to get up there and make these jokes, to be able to hear them say, hey, you know, I have a problem with that. And maybe if we open these things up to a conversation, and I would agree with Chappelle on that. He tried to do that. At least that's what it appeared. But at least maybe we wouldn't be so triggered by it.
But that's kind of what I was gonna get to, because, you know, like you acknowledged, Chappelle did attempt to do that. You know, it used to be where if you said something that offended somebody unintended, and they said, you know, this offended me, and I say, whoa, I did not mean it that way. That's not what I meant. Here's what I meant. At that point, you should be able to accept what I was saying. But that doesn't happen that much anymore. The people want to stand their ground and stick on the what they thought the initial intent was, regardless of the follow-up and the dialogue after that. So it's just, I don't know, kind of disingenuous a little bit, but I think both sides could be a little bit more open and understanding.
Right. But with that said, my point of view on that is if you do say something that's blatantly offensive towards another group, and a company, a corporation, a venue, like with Kanye West or Balenciaga, whatever, whatever the corporate entity is, they have every right to disassociate themselves from you and
Absolutely.
your statement and your comment. That is not cancel culture. People need to understand it. That is actually the ultimate, you know, freedom of speech. Is I don't have to be affiliated with this sort of speech. You can say whatever you want, but you're not free from the consequences of saying what you say. And with Alex Jones and Kanye West with this George Floyd thing, it goes beyond just saying something that's lewd or offensive or whatever it is. They are actively saying things towards people and individuals that was causing them harm or could potentially cause them harm. And I don't feel bad for them. And I think people need to stop confusing accountability and start trying to cloak that into this bullshit statement of cancel culture, because it really doesn't exist.
I'm so surprised, but let's mark this one in the books. Julian, I agree with you 100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will not see this that often. This is an
Maybe
anomaly.
not ever again.
And it shouldn't be happening in the second episode, but here we are.
Here we are. Wow. I was a little worried knowing the topic, but I think you nailed it, man.
Appreciate that. And I'm looking forward. Leave comments. Definitely leave comments.
Please, yeah.
We get enough comments on there. We will reply to them. We will talk about it. We'll have whole segments just on the comments alone, just to see what the audience thinks, and of course I can shut some of you down.
You gotta be so challenging, man. We could just accept the comments and reply.
Could be that way, but being that you agree with me on this,
you might be surprised how many people agree with you. I mean, shit.
You know what it is? It's one of those things where I just hear a lot. I hear it almost every time any conversation comes up about, you know, some famous figure or whatever, who, you know, some big person who said something that offended people, and right away the first thing people want to run to is, oh, this is a culture of canceling and cancel culture, and
they're trying to merge wokeism in with it.
Yeah, Yeah. So the idea that, you know what it is, it's there's an expression for that, anti-intellectualism. That's really what it is. So you accuse somebody who's woke. Nobody uses the fucking term woke. When's the last time you heard anybody really use that term? Now all of a sudden it's caught on, and it's a great right-wing talking point. You know what it's a talking point for? Stupid people. Last episode I called people morons. It's going to be the stupid people episode, because it's a term that people use, that dumb people who don't really understand or think, or they're just surface level, they get their information, that they hear something and there's slight truth to it, and they, yes, and wokeism, and everyone's woke, and the liberals are woke. And
how about uninformed or underinformed instead of stupid?
am I going to get canceled?
Is there a such thing?
There isn't. So they're fucking stupid.
Well, just as long as you're ready to be accountable for your statement.
I'm not calling everyone stupid, obviously, but there are stupid people out there. We acknowledge that, right?
Yes, there are stupid people out there, but I just don't want to say that everyone who's using the term woke or not fully understanding where it comes from and what it's about is stupid. They just aren't informed, or they could be stupid too.
It's just like the conversation we had the last time where you said Kanye West could be a genius. So I guess in this instance, they could be uninformed, but maybe they're smart. Maybe they're actually really intelligent. I'll go with you on that.
There we go.
You stupid people are uninformed.
Just when I think I got you.
Yes.
It's not happening. It's not happening. One day I'm gonna get you.
I would agree with you on that. Maybe that was a little too harsh, but
yeah, man. I just, it's wild. It's something I say all the time. It's like the more readily available information is, the less people are willing to go get it. It's just crazy, where the most uninformed population with the most information available. Like, I remember I was like the only kid on the block who had an encyclopedia.
We were just talking about that. Yeah.
Right? Like, that was a big deal. And I can't tell you how many times I had to refer to the encyclopedia, to, do book reports or whatever. But, that the encyclopedia was the internet, was Google. Now,
yeah, that was a big deal. I remember like my friends saying, like, for reports, they had to go to the library.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, we got an encyclopedia, man.
And then they went, what are you, rich? Like, you remember that? You have information readily available in your home. Are you rich? It's crazy.
I'll say that was one of, because actually we were far from fucking rich. So was I. Growing up the way I grew up. But that was one investment that my parents made that I think sort of separated me from a lot of the, my classmates and stuff. I gained a lot of my vocabulary because of the books and stuff that I had at home.
Yeah. I'm not sure where we got ours. I'm 1000% sure it was secondhand. I think I could completely be making this up, but my grandfather was a realtor. He would flip houses, buy and sell homes. And I think the set might have been left in one of the houses he bought. My mom will probably correct me on this, but I'll let you guys know if it wasn't the case. Either way, we had a whole set of encyclopedias, and that's how we got our information.
My parents worked at like Albert Einstein Hospital or some shit like that, and I think when they got it, I think it was like, I'm vaguely remembering here, maybe it was like some promo or something, but I remember it was such of a big deal. Like when we got it home, like the boxes came, and we will open it up, and first thing I wanted to do is grab the letter D for dinosaurs and the letter P for like planets and outer space and shit, so I can look up all the information there. Like, I memorized that.
I was 100% sure you were going to say you grabbed J, because I grabbed D first.
Nice. You grabbed D first.
Oh, wow. Pause. Hey, yo.
Say that again. Anyway.
Yeah, so now we have, information readily available on our phones.
Wait a minute. Why did you grab D?
Because my first name starts with D. Nothing other than that.
So you grabbed the D because your name is Damien.
Let's see what you're doing here. I'm gonna pause you. And then I'm gonna say yes. Because my name is Damien, I grabbed the D.
Awesome.
Come on, man. Where are we going?
I'm just asking you a question. Like, I don't even understand what it is you're laughing about. You grabbed a D first. That's what you did.
That's what I did.
Was it one of the thicker ones? The D? Okay, I'm just bugging out. All right.
NBA started. Season started.
NBA season. Let's move on from the D. NBA. Lots to talk about there.
Golden State came out with a bang.
They're my team.
Yeah,
they're just my team. I think I love the personalities on the team, love the coach. I think Steph Curry is the best player on the planet. I know some people don't agree. Some people think it's Giannis. Some people think it's KD. Some people think it's still LeBron. But I still
make
think
an
it's
argument
Steph
for
Curry.
all of those guys, but I think the consensus would be Steph. You know, in that last episode, we were talking about the issue between Draymond and Poole. I gotta tell you, man, I doesn't seem like it interrupted the chemistry of that team at all. I was surprised. They were on that court balling like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on there.
I just think that even proves my point even more. Like if it would have been dealt with in-house, it would have been wrapped up quickly, and that they would have been able to move on and squash it, and the guys would have probably already had dinner. I mean, it's clear they probably don't talk to each other. Jordan Poole probably moved his locker from next to Draymond, I'm sure, but they're still a team. And I think that speaks a lot to the organization, to Kerr, and you know the way they're controlling things. Hats off to them.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it really affected them too much, and I think part of it too is Golden State is such of a deep team now that really the interaction between Poole and Draymond on the court doesn't have to be too frequent. You know what I'm saying? Like if this was between Steph and Clay, that'd be a real problem, you know? But
probably. Well, I mean, I don't remember seeing it too much in this game, but typically they do play together a lot because Draymond often will hang on the court with the second team.
Right, with the second unit. Yeah.
But this, I don't even think they have a second unit anymore. They have two starting fives.
It's a little bit insane.
This season's gonna be it's gonna be great to watch.
But that's player development. You got Kuminga, you got Moody, you got Wiseman, you got Poole. You got these guys that almost on any other team would be the 8th, 9th person off the bench. And or on the flip, they'd be a starter like for like some shitty team somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of teams you could take that second unit and make them your starter.
But they wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't translate to wins, where I think they play in the right kind of system. And I think the unselfishness starts with Steph Curry. I don't think I've ever seen a superstar that unselfish ever.
You say that a lot.
Yeah, I do say that a lot, but I felt the same way about Scottie Pippen during the Bulls era. I felt the same way about Tim Duncan. I feel the same way about a lot of these players that I really admire. They are willing at times to not be in the spotlight for the better of the team. It's not too often you can say that about other players. As great as Kobe and Shaq were, imagine if they were able to just put that beef aside the entire time. Their egos, just put them aside. Imagine they would have won more, I'm sure.
Um, I mean, Shaq tells it a little differently. He I know you mentioned you watched it when he was on Drink Champs, but the way he described it was more of an issue of his age. Like
He's changed that story up a bunch of times.
as
Even
he
when him and Kobe did that interview together for the first time, it was about ego, man. That was about ego.
well, he addressed that. He definitely
Yeah.
said they both, were alpha dogs on the same team, and that's what you're gonna get that. But
Yeah.
I
I,
don't
I
know.
I would say if that part gets fixed, the other things are workable. It's just as my thing. But anyway, other teams in the league. So why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about who do you
Oh,
think are the top 3 teams coming out of the East Coast? We're doing early predictions here. And this is, of course, the caveat here is that everyone is mostly healthy.
Brooklyn, Philly. Boston looked good too. Boston looked good in the second half. They got to figure some shit out still. Um, I'd say that third spot would be between Philly and Milwaukee.
I'm close to you, but I would say it's going to be between.
I'm sorry, not Philly and Milwaukee, Boston and Milwaukee.
Okay. I'm going to say more than likely, I think Milwaukee comes out of the East. I don't mean best record in the East. I mean they come out.
Okay.
Um, and the 2 teams that I think could challenge them will be the Boston Celtics next, and then above the Brooklyn Nets. I pick Philly. So I got
Really?
Philly, I got Milwaukee, Philly. I mean Milwaukee, Boston, and then Philly. I think I think I think at some point Kyrie Irving is going to start being unreliable in some way. I think Ben Simmons is probably not going to be a really good fit with 2 dynamic offensive players like that. I feel like his confidence is going to be. I just even from the first game, he didn't look like he had any kind of confidence at all. So I think with the chemistry problems and just KD's drama, Kyrie's drama, I just see that kind of falling apart later on in the season.
I think because of all of those reasons, I think is why I see things the exact opposite way. Too much shit's been going on around Kyrie. His contract's up, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's gonna want to entertain that shit. So he's got to change he's got to change the outlook, and he'll likely have an MVP level season.
I've heard people say that. I don't know what dream these people were in to think that
Well,
to
is
think
he?
to
He's
think with go ahead.
because he's capable of it in terms of his skill and talent. He's capable of it. And if he wants to have longevity in the NBA, he's going to need to show a different character.
Okay, so I don't think with the talent that we have in the league right now, and with some of the players, you got KD, and he plays with KD too. So just the idea that he's even an MVP candidate with Kevin Durant on your team, nah. But okay, so you got KD,
I said
you got
caliber.
LeBron, caliber, right? You got KD, you got LeBron, you got Luka, you got Jokic, you got Embiid, you got Giannis, you got Steph. Really, like if we're thinking about like these top players, Kyrie Irving, I don't even see him on the line if I'm looking from one straight down. Just I don't see it.
So you don't think he'll even be in the conversation of MVP?
No.
I think he will.
I don't think he's good enough compared to those other players to even be in that conversation.
Oh wow, are you shitting me?
I am not shitting you. If you were starting a team right now, who do you take? Who do you take first, Tatum or Kyrie?
Kyrie.
So I can't talk to you about this shit, man.
Tatum's great, but Tatum will never. I don't want to say he will never, but he has not lived up to his expectation.
Really, because he's been to the finals the twice. He's been to the Eastern Finals. He's a young player, and he was in the finals last year. Like, he hasn't taken them home, but how many young players?
The first time he was in, the
far?
first time he made it to the finals was with Kyrie, and they were just there last year. And
who was the main player on that team? It wasn't Kyrie. Okay,
last year, he was shit.
He was shit in the finals.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he got him to the finals, and let's not even make
I don't
this crazy, because
I
think he was
give
still
him the credit to say he got them there.
Yeah,
I think he's supposed to be the dominant leader on that team, and he's not. I think they go to JB more than they go to him. As a matter of fact,
the stats don't show that. Statistically speaking, Jason Tatum is that guy on that team. In every series they've played, it's Jason Tatum. That's not even disputable. One, two. Let's move on from the Jason Tatum Kyrie thing. That's okay. That's a debatable argument. I'll even take that. I'm not talking longevity or career, but if we were making a case, so what the hell did Kyrie do last year, or the year before, or the year before that? If you want to talk about what Tatum isn't doing, let's talk about what Kyrie isn't doing, because he hasn't done anything. And then we got Jokic. You would take Kyrie over Jokic? The most versatile big man we've seen in probably ever.
Like,
shit, boy.
You see that? I think that's just your like for Kyrie's handles and his flash. I don't think that's a real like. I think if you were like running a team, if you owned a team and you had a pick from these guys, I think your logic would kick in. I just think right now this is your likability factor, but no way.
I think you're downplaying. His skills and his ability majorly.
Look, Kyrie also
as a point guard.
Kyrie also has no D. So
you got to cut this shit out, man.
I don't know.
Well, we're gonna have to put in an Ayo drop or something. Like, what's
So he plays no D. I don't even know if that sounded any better, right? Anyway, defense, ladies and gentlemen. He's too much of a problem, man. He's too much of a problem. You strip his talent just aside. How many teams put up with that kind of nonsense?
No, you're right. You're right, and I agree with you there. Which is why because his contract is up. That's exactly why I think he's going to be on his best behavior. He's going to keep his mouth shut, and he's going to ball the fuck out, because that's the only way he's going to get a long-term contract and get paid.
They lost that first game.
That's all right. So did the Knicks, but they looked great.
So did the Knicks. What's the expectation for the Knicks? They looked great when they made their comeback, but they're not.
Listen, there were things. Yeah. There were things we saw in the game that we didn't see last year. Cam Reddish looked incredible. He looks healthy. He's balling. That's going to be. I'm not saying we're going conference championship or anything like that. Don't get crazy. I'm just saying I liked what I saw. They showed a lot of heart. They fought it out. They forced the game against a team who could have been in the finals last year.
Let's talk about the Knicks 10 more games in. And then we'll do that every 10 games in, because I want to see if they are capable of being over 500. Anyway, let's move on to the West Coast. So who would you say are your three top teams coming out of the West this year?
Golden State.
I've never been on live television before, but
I don't even know where you're sitting at. A few moments later.
I'm fucking blank. Denver. But you're gonna start making cricket sounds?
Let's focus on the D.
A few inches later.
Wait, what did I say? Golden State.
Golden State.
Man, you throwing me off.
I'm throwing you off with the D.
Give me yours. Give me yours, and I'll come back with mine.
For me, on the West Side, on the West Coast, I think Golden State is the favorites. I think they'll win. I would say followed by. This is going to be a tough one because I'm going to say
Phoenix.
I'm going to say
couldn't get it for the life of me. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say I don't have Phoenix on mine. I'm going to say it's a toss-up between Dallas and Denver. You know, with Jamal Murray coming back, I think they're going to be crazy.
I think they're going to be dangerous, yeah.
But it's a toss-up between three other teams. So it would be Golden State for sure. I think they've separated themselves. And then you have Denver. Denver, Dallas, or the Clippers. I think I know it's supposed to be three. If I had to pick three, I would probably keep the Clippers out because I don't know how healthy Kawhi Leonard is. He played last night.
He didn't
very
even start.
Limited. Yeah, he didn't start. Very limited minutes, and I know that's what they're going to do, but I'm not too sure it's going to really translate into him.
We started this with the premise of
was.
everyone being healthy, so we got to stick with that.
I'm a fun guy.
Okay. I would still leave them out. If I had to pick between those three teams.
I think we're pretty close. Golden State, I think Phoenix is still going to be there.
They could be. West is strong.
And then Denver, I definitely think is going to shake something. You're right about Dallas. I kind of forgot about them, but yeah, I would Golden State, Phoenix, and Denver. I think Denver is gonna surprise some people.
All right, so there you have it. NBA predictions. I want to talk about one real quick thing for the NBA. Russell Westbrook. The guy gets a lot of hate. He had an awful game last night. I think it was like 0 for 9 or something, or not last night, on Thursday. He had a really, really bad game. And I get it, right? But I don't think he's the problem of the Lakers. I think there's always going to be a scapegoat when LeBron James is on your team. That's always it. It doesn't matter if it's J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, Chris Bosh. It doesn't matter who it is. There's always going to be somebody who's just not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're ruining LeBron's legacy.
I mean, I hear you when it comes to LeBron. Obviously, he's not going to take the heat, but I mean, they give plenty. It's not like Westbrook is the only one catching heat. I mean, AD gets it probably equally, maybe worse.
Shit, partner.
He doesn't get it worse. Street clothes doesn't get it worse. Street clothes just can't ever stay healthy.
Mr. Glass.
It's not about like people think. You know what the narrative I hear? If AD was healthy, he's top 5 in the league easy.
I don't agree with that, but yeah, the people do say shit like that.
Yeah, so they say stuff like that. So they're not really like faulting him. Even though he comes in training camp looking like Uncle Gus and shit.
He's awkward, isn't he? I don't think Russell Westbrook is the cause for the Lakers' poor play. I think he is playing poor, and he just doesn't fit in with that team, and it just exacerbates it. So he doesn't fit, and on top of that, he's not playing well. So it's like he's got 2 spotlights on him.
Totally agree. Look at this. This is insane. So yeah, wow, we're doing good, bro.
I lied. That's not what I meant. We have to disagree.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's move on to the next topic here.
Oh man. So Steve Bannon gets sentenced 4 months for 2 counts of contempting Congress.
That's it.
That's it.
Doesn't that sound like a serious charge? Contempt of Congress.
Yeah, so then what? Like he does 4 months, which he'll probably do like 2.5 months, and then still doesn't have to testify. Like what?
Yeah, right.
What are we doing here?
I don't know. He might be well suited for a couple of months in prison.
It'll probably get some rest, a little short vacation for him.
Yeah,
Come back stronger than ever. I'm sure he'll have more fans.
And then he can, yeah, he'll have more fans. He'll be able to go on his, his. Does he even have a podcast? I'm pretty sure he does, right? Yeah, he has a podcast.
I don't know, but I know he used to frequent Alex Jones' show.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just going to spend most of his time going after the Democrats. Yeah. So, yeah, I know I feel like I'm in middle school again, but junior high.
Yeah.
It's funny when I moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Florida, right? When I moved here from New York, everyone it was middle school.
Yeah.
But in New York, it was just junior high.
I think New York is like the only place that's junior high.
See, yeah, junior high sounds way better than middle school.
You know what I think it was? Because I was having this conversation with my parents not long ago, and I think at some point in New York, at least in their era, high school wasn't 9 through 12. It was like 8. It was like 10 through 12. And so junior high school went up to 9th grade. So, and I think that's why they call it junior high school.
Whatever. It sounds much better than middle school.
Middle school is like,
it's just so blah. Anyway, back to Bannon here.
How was I having that conversation with my parents? Is a better question.
Yeah.
So Bannon gets 4 months.
He gets 4 months.
Candace Owen thinks that children should work.
So as we were discussing, right? So this is one of those things where there's a little bit of truth sprinkled into a whole bunch of stuff where I said uninformed people will be like, yeah, she's got it. So here's the distinction I want to make. If let's say you have a family business, let's say you have a farm, let's say you own your parents own I don't know, a small little car dealership or hardware store or something.
Bodega.
And a bodega, right?
It wasn't a Puerto Rican joke. We're from New York.
Yeah, I kind of got that. Anyway, and you own a business, and of course, you might have your kids involved in your business, and you're teaching them something. You're teaching them work ethic. You're teaching them how to be independent of like a corporation and being
entrepreneurship.
Able to, yeah, you're teaching them that. That is the spirit of work. But this, what she's getting at, and you can check out the clip yourselves, but what she's basically getting at is, no, you should be working harder for corporations and putting much more time into that concept at less pay. For some reason, a lot of people on the right, I'm talking to politicians, have this concept where you should work harder for less money and not complain. God forbid you even mention union. And then they are making it harder for people to really own businesses and do different things, even though they claim to be for the working people, they're not.
Yeah. And she used the word entitled quite a bit.
That's another one of those woke.
Yeah.
Woke is cancel culture entitled. Yeah.
I got the feeling she was really taking a jab at the millennials, you know,
Yeah, that's what they do.
that voting block. But the shit she was saying was it almost sounded like she wanted to start a like child slave labor or something. Like get your kids out of elementary school and get their asses to work. what are they doing not working?
And again, like there's a difference between working and having work ethic and pushing yourself. It's another thing to be a slave to a corporation where some big shot somewhere gets to live it up on a beach in some island or in Dubai or something, and you're working 50 hours a week, you know, making 25-30,000 a year. Like that's no way to live.
Yeah, if her premise was more of work ethic, then you know maybe she would have had an argument. But she went on talking about how an employee of hers wanted $130,000 salary after working for her for a month, or you know, what have you. Who knows whatever his position was? What's the average salary for that? Like I know, you know, there are things that we did as kids that we don't see anymore. Like, you know, I had a newspaper route when I was a kid. I earned a few dollars, you know, to go buy the toy that I wanted to buy. You know what I mean? In order to buy a, you know, a slice of pizza and a soda, you know, without having to go beg my mom or chase the ice cream truck. But, you know, you don't
I had
see
the
those.
same thing.
Yeah, you don't see those things anymore. So if that was her argument, then you know, I might have understood. But
we do, like we there's still things that people do. It's just a different thing. So for instance, when I was young, I'll bring up a little bit of my stories growing up. I used to live, my parents, we moved into a better part of the Bronx for a couple of years. We moved to Pelham Parkway. And when I was living there, I used to walk around the street and go to the garbage cans and the dumpsters and stuff and collect soda bottles.
recycle.
So I could recycle them and get my nickel. And I would be carrying bags and bags of this shit and then recycling it at like Seatown or wherever the hell I was going.
Half mark.
And yeah. And then I would just waste it back all on video games and candy anyway, you know. So I would go to the arcade and just, you know, play whatever I was playing. And then I used to have to earn an allowance. It was $8 that I used to earn.
I think I got 10.
It was $8 that I used to earn, and we used to go. My sister earned 10, but me and my younger sister, we only earned 8. And I remember the first thing I would do is I would get a bag of Doritos with that. I would get, and this isn't sponsored, I would get my champagne cola and some Chico sticks, and then the rest would go on my video games. And then when I got older,
everything about your snacks are Puerto Rican, bro. What the fuck is that?
I sometimes I would get Coco Rico too. But anyway, I don't want to say that because you'd be like, oh, but and you know, what up. So anyway, young lords, look them up. Anyway, so when I got a little bit older, the hustle turned into porno tapes. Yeah, my father, he got 2 VCRs. So I would go to the video store and steal porno movies. We had a little local video store. I would steal them and then I would double record them and sell them. I would go to school, I'd have a backpack and I would just sell porno tapes. That was my thing. I was like the D guy.
I was going to say, this makes this episode, now it all makes sense. You've always been a fan of the D.
Yo, stop that.
Or the business of. I don't know. Yeah.
Stop that. Anyway. I make fans of the D. I'm not a fan of the D. Anyway.
Heard you.
So, seriously. So, nowadays, kids, they do what? They do TikTok. They do Instagram. You know, they do social media thing. They're gamers. They do the YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
And there's hustle in that. There is money in that.
Yeah.
So maybe we're looking at things in a different light. Maybe kids are they're working at a different time. These are different times, and some of them do have jobs. Like I still go to, my local smoothie shop or whatever hell do you go to, your Starbucks, and you see kids working there.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed all that much, except I don't think it's a good idea to have 12-year-olds working, at Foot
Right.
Locker.
Uh, yeah, I watched the clip and it was disgusting. I don't even understand like what her goal is by making this statement. Like, just baffles me.
White supremacy is a business.
You're right. There it is.
That's what it is. And she's invested in that business of white supremacy. Same thing with Kanye West. Same thing with Herschel Walker. Same thing with a lot of these people. This is a business investment. And for Black people going in to this business venture, it's way more lucrative because white racists are a dime a dozen. You get a Black person in there who hates on their own kind, you're a special type of commodity for that business.
Facts.
So yeah, I think Candace Owens is crazy, and I think I want to stop talking about her right now.
Yeah, I wish to never talk about her again, but I'm sure we will. Hey, I read this interesting article, Bloomberg, and it said that Americans drove 60 million less hours because of working from home.
It's amazing because still sort of on the topic of Candace Owens, that's actually a lot of things that I've heard Bill Maher talk about. I've heard a lot of right-wing or semi-right-wing politicians talk about is going back to work, getting in your car. We need to have the workforce again in America. I think even Joe Biden had said something to that effect. And yeah, people drive less because more people work at home. COVID still is a thing for some people. I think COVID gave people a perspective, right? Where, shit, I'd rather work from home.
I mean, I think as a business owner, it makes a lot more sense. Depends on what the business is.
Right.
But if I no longer have to pay for a brick and mortar facility, I no longer have to pay electricity and all of these things, it makes sense. There are a lot of studies. I read one, I think it was like 6,900 people were part of this study, and people are happier, people are more productive at work, people are willing to work more hours, which is crazy. On top of that, people on an average saved over $500 a month.
Yeah, the commute alone with gas and lunch and food, buying your clothes, because you buy more clothes when you're working. Yeah.
Clothes probably too. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But
if you work on the outskirts of the city, your commute is probably anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours sometimes just to get home if you work a 9 to 5.
Yeah, easily. Obviously depends on the city, but I easily, with just the gas and food alone, you could probably make up that $500 a lunch a month. But
not to mention, these companies are less liable for things like slipping and falling and sexual harassment. And
exactly,
it's actually a really good thing for a lot of people where you don't have that. Because sometimes work is a little bit like school, right? You got to dress a certain way and present yourself a certain way in order to kind of catch the eye of your boss or whatever, and
right.
you lose a lot of that pressure and that stress. I'm not saying it works for every type of business. Obviously, there's some businesses where you need that person-to-person interaction, but
For sure.
I work virtually from home. I've been doing so before COVID, and it's a game changer as far as the culture is concerned. So I would highly recommend, if anyone out there, you have an opportunity to do it. If you have if you have the patience for it and you're able to, I would say it's definitely a game changer. Because then when you go out, you're actually going out and doing something. I'm out working all day. I come home, I just want to be home.
Right.
But when it's time to go out, I'm going somewhere. I'm doing something. I'm not going to work to see these fucking mummies every day, you know?
That's interesting. You know, in that same survey that I read, most of them were willing to take a 10% pay cut to stay working from home. Some of them would take a home job paying less than working in the office. So it's clearly something that people, I think 54% of companies no longer want to do it, which leaves 46%, which is still pretty big. But people
But it
love it.
just shows you when you have politicians on both sides kind of arguing the point and wanting people to go back to work, it does show the impact that does have on the economy, right? You know, gas, food, lunches, small businesses, all of that stuff is affected because people are home more, but other industries increase. You know, it's a balance, but
Right.
it certainly does hurt. I'm sure it hurts the oil industry,
But,
and I'm sure
you
that
know,
has something to do with gas prices.
I was that's kind of where my brain went to it, but something you just said, that because I hear a lot, you know, when we go to restaurants and they're underemployed and things like that, you know, people are sitting there saying no one wants to work anymore. No, they just don't want to work for $3 an hour anymore and have to kiss your ass for $2 left on the table. Now they can sit at home and work, get paid better, not have to pay for a babysitter. You know, it's they're working, just they're working somewhere else. And that industry hasn't caught up, but they're going to need to make some changes. You know, like you go to Europe and you try and tip somebody, they're offended. They actually get paid to do their job. They don't work for tips.
That's what I heard, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how
We
true that is.
My first experience with it, you know, we went on a cruise, a European cruise line earlier this year, and I've been on other cruises, and when you go to the bar, you get a drink. You usually have to sign for it. You fill out the tip line, and you know you sign the bottom and hand it back to them. They don't even give you a receipt on this cruise line. You hand them your room key. They just charge you for the drink, and there's no opportunity to even tip them.
That's dope.
Yeah, I
But
felt
over
bad, like
here,
because I'm accustomed to. You know, I was like, well, I can't. You know, I can't. It was just weird to me because you know I've worked in the service industry, so it's a thing for me to make sure I'm taking care of them. But
right.
you know, I also don't want to offend anybody, you know, because of what I'm used to.
Yeah, I think just being here in this country, I think with the way the wages, and we see the videos all the time, right? With the Karens and everything, and then wilding out in fast food restaurants and stuff, and just people bugging out. Who can blame young people for not wanting to work that? Right? Who could blame? And by the way, when they talk about
Especially
like
when you don't even want to raise the minimum wage. You want to pay me $7 an hour
right,
to deal with that shit.
right. And the thing is they make it seem like it's more so the millennials, but actually it isn't. I did see a study where they were talking about most of the people who are working remote are actually people older than like 35, 40.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, it kind of gives you a little bit more life, so to speak, if you're an older person to be able to work from home, especially
Right.
if you have kids, right? You have kids,
It's a game changer.
that's a game changer. You're talking about childcare. Childcare
It's
is
like
a killer.
$300 a week.
It's a killer. Some of the people that we hire, they have young kids. They depend on this. So this whole thing with the workforce and everything, I think it's just they're upset that COVID destroyed their version of the modern day slavery. That's what it is. That's what it is. We're supposed to be a workforce country.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, the other thing that it made me think about was these gas prices. Like I always You know, my social media, this is something I often just set bait for people on there just to let them, show their ignorance. When the gas prices go high, it's, oh my God, it's the president. He's in full control of gas prices and he's an
Right.
idiot. And then when the gas prices come down,
It's not the president.
it's not the president.
Right.
Right. If you just look at like the basic supply and demand, 60 million hours of less driving. I don't know how many gallons of gas that equates to, but it's probably a lot. And so if less gas is being bought, the demand is a little lower, the price is going to be higher. It's simple. But yeah, man. So when it comes to gas price, I almost did a Julian. I was going to say, when it comes to gas prices, people are just fucking idiots.
You mean the uninformed?
They're just uninformed or underinformed. And I
Underinformed.
just wish people would just like, I get it. Like, you have your team and you want to cheer for your team no matter what. But sometimes your team is wrong. Sometimes you're just wrong. And you sound crazy and you look crazy when you just can't acknowledge that you're just wrong.
Right. It's a thought tribalism now. It's just like we have to.
And that doesn't make you less of a teammate either. You know what I mean?
We have to all fit in the same box. You know what I'm saying? Like we all have to. Like I'm a progressive. I'm very to the left, but if I'm a little bit to the right on certain issues, I'm kind of not a team player, right? I'm kind of, yeah.
How dare you be an independent thinker?
But then there's also that bullshit too, is the independent thinker. They think they fucking got it all. No, they just can't pick a fucking side on an issue.
Okay.
That's worse. To me, that's worse.
I was not, I didn't mean independent as, I didn't mean that, but I got what you mean. I don't think that's worse. Honestly,
it's worse. It's way worse.
Why?
Because typically when you have someone who is in the middle, that gives them kind of leeway to flip-flop. It kind of gives them leeway to be on the deplorable side, the shit side, the Republican side, without saying that they are. I've seen so many people, I'm more of a centrist, or, I'm more of an independent. I'm a libertarian. I hear that dumb shit all the time. But consistently, they vote for Trump.
Out, man.
They vote for the right wing. I'm sorry. If you say you're not down with it, but you're down with it, then I can't fuck with that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being in the center. I think that it just you don't have to. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to pick a side, and they do. But
and it's usually on the right.
That's not true.
Dame, if there were two equal positions of something where I can see both sides and 20 people are in the middle and half of them go on one side, half of them go on the other side, that's understandable. But that's not really what we're talking about here.
It varies by election, but I don't think that was the case in the last election. I think it was the opposite of what you were saying. But I think for independents, it just comes down to which of you is the furthest away from me, and I can't fuck with that.
I don't think that's what it is at all. I don't think I've ever met one independent, not one. And I've talked to a lot of people about politics. I don't think I've ever met one person who claims to be an independent that doesn't lean heavily on one side or the other. And most times that I've encountered, it's to the right.
But I would agree with you if you take out the word heavily. I would agree that independents tend to lean one way or the other, but they're persuadable. And
yeah, you got some people say, "Oh, I voted."
They might be the most open-minded people. Might be.
I feel like, I know I'm going to get shit for this one, but I feel like, oh yeah, I voted for Obama and then I voted for Trump. How do you square that? How do you square that? How is that the most open-minded person? Oh, I voted for Obama the first time and he burned me, so right to Mitt Romney. Like, I don't buy that shit. That tells me you're either uninformed or you really didn't vote for Obama and you're just saying that because you're an independent and you want to appear to have this open-mindedness, and you're not really.
I think I think that category has changed over the years. I think there are a lot of Democrats that are turned off by the Democratic Party, and they don't want to feel taken for granted, and so they change their registration. I think there are Republicans who, at their core, believe in the Republican policies, or what they used to be anyway, but couldn't fuck with Trump. They just couldn't swallow that, and so they
There's a lot of that.
changed their registration. So I think
There's a lot of that, and I'm not saying that the sample size of people that I have encountered is indicative of the entire country's independent voters, but typically what I see is people who, they have a party that they lean towards, but they may not like the candidates in that party. So they're quick to, kind of go from one side to the other. But the thing with an independent is that they're never going to find any candidate ever that's going to align with them perfectly.
yes, I agree. I mean, but I think that's the case for, it doesn't matter what party you're in.
It's more so for them. Because you could be an independent solely based on the fact that you're pro-life. You may be on the left of every issue except for that one. And that alone will put you on that side every time.
I'm sure there are people like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think there are some people who, they have that one issue, like let's say abortion, and that's the issue that guides them to go right wing on every other issue because they have to be, like you said, part of the team.
I know some people like that. Yes, I would agree.
So yeah, so the hell with them being more open-minded.
I said they might be, man. I'm open to
Kanye West
possibilities.
Might be a genius.
I'm
He
open
might
to
be
possibilities.
He might be a genius.
I'm open to possibilities. Like it's like in a state like Florida, where it's a closed election state, right? In the primaries, you have to vote for the party you're registered in. In open states, you can vote for whoever the fuck you want. I would say we should all be independents, and every state should be open, and no one's vote should be counted on. They should be earned.
I like the system. Have you heard of this? The ranking system for voting.
It sounds familiar. I think you might have told me about this before.
So basically, I could have this a little bit wrong, but the ranking system would be, you vote for your top three, right? In a particular order. So let's say I got Bernie as my first choice, Beto O'Rourke as my second choice, and Elizabeth Warren as I'll say Joe Biden as my third, right? Let's just say that's what it was. So you vote for that, but if, let's say, we figure out somewhere, when they're counting the votes, that Bernie Sanders is eliminated, my vote immediately goes to my second choice. And then when that person's eliminated, my vote goes immediately to that third choice.
Do all of my choices have to be in one party?
I'm not too sure. I would imagine it would make more sense that way. Yeah, I think it would make more sense that way, but that's what I thought it was. But I could be wrong on that.
Here's my thought. America is supposed to be the land of the free, right? That's supposed to be based on democracy. Democracy is supposed to be based on being able to vote. Yet we live in a country that insists on making it harder to vote instead of easier. And that
Mhm.
just is the most undemocratic thing I could think of. I don't think if you committed a crime in the past, that makes you un-American, right? So many people stand on the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. The right to vote is an equal right, but less people have a problem with that being taken away. And I don't understand that. If you commit a crime, you do the time, you've paid your debt to society, you should not continue to be punished. You shouldn't have to beg for your rights back. You shouldn't have to pay these unpayable fines. Some of these people have like fines of $200,000, $300,000, something that they can never pay to get their rights back. And it's just, that's not American. Everybody should be able to vote no matter what. I don't think you should be restricted to vote for a certain party just because you registered in a certain party. I think you should be able to vote for whoever the fuck you want to vote for. And that's
So
why
let's segue that into the
we got elections
DeSantis
coming up.
thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, but also with the people who
Oh,
were arrested in Florida. But before we get into that, just so I can clarify that. So the ranking system, how it works is you choose up to 5 candidates in order of preference. And then whichever candidate receives 50% of the first choice votes is the winner of the election. If no candidate earns more than 50% of the first choice votes, then counting will continue in rounds.
sounds
So
interesting.
I think that's actually a better way, because everyone complains about independents ruin elections, right? The
Right.
independent politician, right? That one kind of Bernie Sanders or Bloomberg or whoever that comes in and can kind of steal votes from one side or the other.
What was the guy in the 90s? The Texan?
It wasn't Perot, right?
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, yeah.
He even started a whole new party after that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would kind of eliminate that. That everybody talks about, oh, I don't like the party system. That would totally eliminate that.
I like it if I could pick 5 people and it didn't matter what party they were registered in. I'd be down for that shit. I might have a Republican as my third option or something. Who knows? But
hell no.
You've never voted for a Republican?
Never, and I never will.
Just because they're Republican?
No. Everything they stand for is the opposite of what I believe.
Blanket statement over all of them?
I'm not a Second Amendment guy. I am not a pro-life guy. I am not someone who is I don't get a boner with the thought of us going to war and smashing some other fucking country to bits. I'm not for tax breaks for wealthy people. I'm not for lowering the minimum wage. I'm not for deregulating health-related items. I'm not for corporatized healthcare. I'm not for anything they represent, and they've represented my entire life. There's nothing about anything on that side. I don't care if it's the coolest person imaginable and the most likable person. Nothing will ever get me to that side.
Well, I guess maybe doesn't matter the position that they're running for.
You mean like governor?
Yeah, not talking about.
Senate?
I should have clarified. I wasn't talking about for president or anything like that.
It would be the same thing.
Okay.
They could be running for class president in elementary school. If they have an R instead of a D, I'm going with the D.
It's all about the D,
baby. It's all about the D.
It's all about the D. I think I'm understanding you a little bit more now. It's all about the D.
Oh, I definitely understand you. You. Anyway, we're children. Sorry. So moving on.
Speaking of voting rights, few years ago, we had a proposal. It was on the election ticket, whatever the fuck you want to call it, ballot. It's on the ballot. Thank you. To restore the voting rights of felons that were not. It excluded felons who were murderers or sexual abusers, right? Overwhelmingly, the entire state voted to pass this.
Yep. I voted for that.
So did I. Because I think regardless of whatever crimes you committed, if you've done your time, that should not make you less of an American. The most American thing you can do is fucking vote. What always happens every election, you have people, running around trying to get as many people as they can registered to vote, right? It's something we hear all the time. Register to vote, register to vote. So these people were all individually approached to register. All were questioning whether or not they were able to register because they knew they were felons. And as far as they knew, their rights had been revoked. But they were told, just fill out the application. The state is either going to approve you or they won't approve you. Don't worry about it. Each of these people got a voting card.
They served their time.
They are free. They registered to vote. They submitted their application. And in the mail, they received a voting card from the state of Florida. Most people would think, damn, I guess I can vote. And so they did. And now the state of Florida is arresting them, using the voting card that they issued them.
And there you go. Republican. Red state. And this is what they do. And like I said, white supremacy is a business. And this, I'm sure, affects white Caucasian men and women.
Yeah, they were black and white people,
but this mostly goes after minorities.
It was mostly black. I didn't see all 20 of them. I saw a good amount of them, pictures of a good amount of them, and I only recall seeing one white person. Not to say there's only one white out of the 20 people, but that's just what I saw.
The thing is, too, when I was talking about like influencers and all of that stuff,
yeah,
this sort of relates to that, because what it does ultimately is it discourages future voters.
That's the only intent behind this. I don't want to be one of
those terrorism, sort of mental terrorism that they're imposing.
Yeah, because they've been screaming voter fraud for years, though there's been no evidence of it. I mean, there might be one or two cases of it, in each election. Like that's nothing no reason to create a whole election fraud department and then go arrest 20 people to put them on display to scare everybody else from voting.
Right. So if we totally eliminated felonies not being able to vote, how many of them are not going to vote just based on not believing they're not going to get arrested after the fact?
Right.
If you've been in jail for 15, 20, 30 years, you get out of jail, you're institutionalized. And if you've managed to escape mentally from that shit and you're happy and content in your life, you don't want to go back. That would be traumatizing. So the idea that you're going to get arrested for voting, you might as well just not vote.
Right. Because the other thing to it is, obviously, anybody who is served time for murder or some sexual assault, they're going to have a challenge getting a job, right? They probably, if they found one, it's probably not the greatest paying job. They're probably struggling in their life. So now they get this bullshit arrest. It's two felony counts. Both hold a $500 bond. So now they got to pay $1,000 to get out of jail, or they stay there until the court. So it's either I pay $1,000 to get out, which I probably don't have, or maybe that's my rent money. So now I got to use my rent money to get out of jail, and then I'm going to be behind on rent. And then you know how you're behind 1 month and you're struggling to catch up, and then you get behind 2 months, and before you know it, you're behind 3 months, and now you're getting evicted. Like, it's just,
And then you have that on your record, and then you can't find somewhere else new, and that cycle continues.
and then in Florida we have the 3 strikes. So don't let it be your 3rd felony. You're gone.
Right. Yeah, you're dying in there. This is the kind of thing where I think a lot of people, I was saying it earlier, right? We run away from this shit, the average person. Nobody wants to talk about this stuff. People don't even want to hear it. And we walk around oblivious to this shit all the time, but there is a lot of thought that goes behind some of these policies that on the exterior, they may seem like something worthy of doing, right? You may say, if you're in that position, hey, you lose your right to vote if you're a felon. You lose your right to vote if you've committed murder or you've done something crazy. And we also punish them by putting them in jail. If they've served their time, rehabilitated, and are active members of the community, why do we continue to punish them?
I think the reason they do shit like this is because, like what's coming up here in the next few months, we got midterm elections. So
that. Wrap it up with that.
It's looking a little crazy. It's looking a little crazy.
All these months we're talking about how Democrats were gonna destroy Republicans in the midterms, and it looks like that's kind of shifting now.
Democrats suck at messaging.
Absolutely.
They allow the Republicans to determine what are going to be the hot topics of this coming election. And then they scramble to fight against it.
And what should be the hot topic of this election? It's pretty cut and dry for me.
I think everyone anticipated that it would be abortion rights, but don't even hear it anymore. It's all
that
about,
should be every day, constant pounding on that whole entire issue. And instead, we don't hear nothing about it. Rarely. It's a blurb in the overall conversation.
It's all about the economy.
Yeah, because that's a general idea. It's always been, right? It's what's the expression? It's the economy, stupid, right? but when you start taking away people's rights, that's a different thing. It's a different thing. And that is also related to the economy. Everything is related to the economy.
Just saw something today where they were talking about inflation, and they found that 54. It was what's her name? The chick who she likes to use the whiteboard. I'm sorry, I can't think of her name.
Rachel Maddow?
No, she's in Congress. Anyway, 54% of the inflation was due to corporate greed.
Wait, say that again.
54% of the cause of inflation was due to corporate greed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not the minimum wage increasing. That's another narrative we've been hearing for years, right? Oh, I'm going to pay someone at McDonald's $15 an hour so I can spend $20 on a hamburger. Like, bitch, if a burger is going to be $20, it's not going to be because the person behind the counter is getting paid a bunch of money.
Now, a lot of these corporations jumped on. We had the shipping challenge with getting cargo in, and so that drove prices up. And then these corporations saw how understanding and willing we were to just pay extra for shit, and they said, "Oh, well, let's try this out." And they just started running the fucking price up for no reason. Americans don't pay attention to that. They just say it's the economy. Who's in charge of the economy?
The president.
It's got to be the fucking president.
And even though inflation is a worldwide problem, this isn't a problem that's happening only in the United States.
Right.
So it's just like, if we talk about one of our buddies, international buddies that we have, I'm sure that she would agree that inflation has affected us everywhere. It's not just here in the United States, but we don't really receive news outside of the country really well. Nobody wants to hear about that either. Um, so, but yeah, inflation has affected pretty much everyone everywhere. But you could blame Biden for a lot of things. There's a lot of things you could blame him
Sure,
for.
but of course.
But some things, especially some of the major things, because he's managed to accomplish some pretty good things, and then other things I don't agree with totally. But I'm not blaming him for things that he doesn't really have that much control over.
I would
Inflation,
agree.
I don't know if anybody noticed, started happening, in the Trump administration. Like
Right.
it wasn't like all of a sudden we just woke up Biden as president and now you're paying, $2 or $3 more per gallon. Like
The things that the effects that we're feeling today are caused by things that happened months ago. So it's always a delayed reaction. So it started happening under his administration, but the beginning of it preceded him.
But anyway,
that's why it's important to vote, man, because these are the people that are in charge of the shit. We got Rubio versus Demings here for Senate.
if let me say this: if you haven't seen the clips on this, or you haven't watched the debate
Was crazy,
especially if you live in Florida, please do yourself a favor and put this on. Midterms are right around the corner.
Regardless of what party you're on,
just watch it.
It was eye-opening, to say the least. Impressive.
Yeah, and you know what I loved about it? He could not use the Second Amendment talking points that he normally would use, that most Republicans use, because she was a cop. Yeah. It's like the best thing you can do is take away the weapon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't weaponize that against me.
Not her. Not only was she a cop, she was a chief of police.
Right.
So yeah, that argument is open that window.
He can't talk this shit. Oh, I love my gun, and I know, like, yeah, I have real experience with a gun. You don't. He can't weaponize that against, and that's the thing. Like, it's a little bit hard for somebody like Rubio to be able to weaponize certain things against her. She's a female. She's a black woman, police officer, chief. Can't use the guns. Can't really do any of that. Now, does that translate into her winning? He's still up in the polls. I don't think that it means much. But I think if the debate can move the needle, it should be this.
Prior to the debate, he was up 4.6%, and the margin of error was 3.7%. So that's within a point.
Right.
It's a really close race.
We have an update on what it is post debate.
I do not.
I'm sure that'll be. I'm sure she gets a bump.
I would think so.
You know how these things work, but I'm sure she gets a bump. That usually happens too. If someone does well in the debate, normally they get a slight bump, but it doesn't show up immediately. It might show up maybe. It could be too late, but I do think that I think she's got time. But we'll see.
We will see. That's for sure.
I'll be voting for her.
As will I. You got this crazy shit going on in Georgia. What's his name? Warnock versus Walker. I've never seen. Let me rethink that. I've seen some bad candidates. I'll say he's one of the worst candidates for any position that I have ever seen in my life. And I don't understand. If he was in my party, there's no fucking way I would vote for him. There's no way. So I just don't understand how people are so tied to a party that you would succumb to this shit. That guy is crazy. You know what? You know who's deserving of the title stupid? He's fucking stupid.
White supremacy as a business.
I dumbfounded is all I have. But Warnock's ahead by 3.7. They also had a debate where Walker
He didn't show up.
He didn't even
Yeah,
show
he didn't
up.
show up. Yeah.
It would have been Demings Rubio all over again because he's not articulate, he's not very bright, and it would have been like, I'm almost glad he didn't show up because it would have been like beating up on a kid. It would have been bad.
I don't know. Like
I see Apollo's corner, throw in the towel.
no, I don't know. I don't, obviously from a logical standpoint, he would probably be demolished, but they're not gonna, it's not even a matter of them admitting it. They're gonna act like he won.
I get what you're saying, and that happens a lot, but I don't think you could have done that here. I mean, he can't even speak a sentence. It's bad. How are people like supporting this?
I don't have an answer for that, and that's been a constant going. Even like, how the hell did George Bush win? Right. What is that thing? Who would you rather have a beer with? Right. Would you rather have a beer and hang out with someone like Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
I'll drink by myself.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with either one of them, but you know how many people would prefer Donald Trump.
I want better for America, man.
And people vote based on that, like ability, what they identify with. Yeah. That's why these politicians, you got Barack Obama in the fucking election bowling, Hillary Clinton going to the Breakfast Club, but talking about hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Purse. Oh my god! I think likability is important, but likability is not.
It's overrated.
It's not. It is overrated. It's not the decision maker. It should not be the decision maker, but it's become that. Like policies, digging into policies, integrity, honesty. Those things don't matter anymore. I would like to see better Democratic candidates. I would like to see better Republican candidates. I would like to see better independent candidates. I think we can do better. We got to get out of this trend that we're in. It's
absolutely. So we're gonna wrap that up right there. Dame, what you got next for us, man?
Noriega, N.O.R.E. He's catching a lot of fucking heat, man. As he should. As he should. I'm a huge fan. I'm very disappointed in N.O.R.E. I think he just got caught up. I think he was in over his head. I think he fell into he was thinking more about his business than he was the consequences of what was going to occur on his show. I think he thought he could control it better. I think he put more weight on his personal relationship with Kanye. And Kanye clearly didn't give a fuck about their personal relationship on this show. And it bit him in his ass. He came out, he apologized. I think it was an honest apology. But
yeah, I'll give him that. And I think it's a teachable moment.
Definitely.
But I do think that when you have someone like a Kanye West who gets on the show, he's there to create fireworks. He's not there to really talk about his career, and he's there for controversy. And Kanye has a history of this, so they should have been way better prepared.
It just shouldn't have happened. He was on The Shop with LeBron. They decided not to air the shit. He was on another podcast called My Expert Opinion with Math Hoffa. He's a battle rapper. He's got a dope podcast. He was on there. They decided not to air it. So N.O.R.E. was a little too cocky, I think. I think he just gave too much weight to their personal relationship. thought he would be able to control it. He didn't take control of the conversation when he should have to give pushback. It took him way too long in the interview to give pushback. And by the time he did, I don't know how familiar everyone is with the show, but it's called Drink Champs, and they drink the entire show. And by the time N.O.R.E really got into it, he was a little saucy, and he just couldn't get his thoughts together clear enough, and it was just disastrous from top to bottom.
Kanye West isn't a musician really anymore. You could say that he's maybe an influencer who does music.
Okay.
Because his brand now is just controversy.
Yeah.
So champs and they're still looking at him as a rapper / producer. And that could have been probably some of the reason why it was so weak. But I think in this day and age, when you have some of the inflammatory things that Kanye says, because white supremacy is a business and he's doing his business, you got to be prepared to push back against that shit. When you have someone like George Floyd, who everyone saw that video, everyone was disgusted by it. I was glued to that trial. And when you see all the evidence and all the video footage and every single angle and all the breakdowns from the doctors and the coroners and everything, and you look at that, and for Kanye West, all these months after that to come out and say on TV several occasions, and he's citing some documentary Candace Owens made, it's horrible. And now there's some talk about Drink Champs possibly being sued as well.
I think it's very possible. I hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, I would understand.
I'm neutral on that. I don't care one way or the other.
I'm a fan of the show. I would hate to lose the show. He made a mistake. It was a horrible mistake. I don't think he took any part. I don't think he took part in the message that Kanye was spreading. So I don't really feel
he did after that say when the first bout of criticism came out, he did turn around and say that he got more views because of it than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
some shit like that. So
if N.O.R.E, like,
yeah, but see, that's what mattered to him. Like the immediate reaction or criticism was that was what mattered.
That's 1,000% what mattered, and that's why I said, like, I think he took into consideration more his business than what.
Okay, yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, that's what I meant by that. Than what was going to be the outcome of the shit that was said, because I think he got caught up in the whirlwind, and he got spanked pretty bad. I would hate to see, because I think if they do get sued, it's probably going to be substantial, and that show's probably going to be gone.
I don't think the show goes away. I think if it's a lawsuit, I think they settle out of court and it's a lesson learned. But you can't have people like Kanye West come on your show and just say any old fucking thing. And
he should have known better. He should have known better.
And yeah, now he's not liable for the things that Kanye West says. So in that sense, I think it's just talk and threats right now. I don't know if even if they sued them, that they would be able to really get anything out of that.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't. Like,
yeah,
he didn't participate in that conversation, saying those things. So I don't know why.
Nor did he know that was going to be what Kanye West was going to say.
Right.
But I do think just the threat and the idea of it probably gives some people pause on whether they should have Kanye on their show spreading that kind of shit, unless they're going to push him on it. Cuomo sort of did. He had his moments. I thought they were pretty good. I would have definitely been way harder on him. But he would have left the interview. He would have abruptly ended it. But I would have tried to kind of trap him a little bit more. But at this point now, I don't think we need to hear more from him anymore. I think there should be some sort of cancel culture, and I think they should kind of just keep him off TV. He's just not doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to pay for his sins.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of drink champs and what tends to be a music podcast, some dope new music coming out, man.
what you got for me?
Well, actually, last week, Kool G Rap dropped the album. You believe that shit?
We were just listening to Kool G Rap
Earlier
before,
today,
right?
right?
Mobb Deep. Yep.
Kool G Rap's got an album out called Last of the Dying Breed, which I would agree he is.
What a title.
Yeah, that I want to say it came out last week. This week we got or just on this past weekend, Little Baby's dropping.
Don't care.
I don't either, but he's worth mentioning. He's got a album titled "It's Only Me." I've heard not so many great things about it. One of my favorite rappers, the Rockness Monster, is dropping. He's got one called Ether Rocks. One half of Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
And then Jeezy. Jeezy's got an album coming out with DJ Drama called Snowfall. I'm looking forward to that.
Dame, what's my nickname?
Oh, what is your nickname? You're the
Bonafide what?
not bona fide.
The what is it?
You're a hater. You're just a hater.
I'm just a hater
Of the grandest kind.
of the grandest kind. The hater of the grand. See, that has more flair than the other shit you were saying.
I'll bring it back when I can remember
The hater of the grandest kind. I like that.
You like that?
I like that.
We'll put that right here at the bottom. Put that right there.
The hater of the
grand.
grandest kind.
Yes. So you likely will not listen to any of that shit I just said, with the exception of maybe Kool G Rap.
Of course.
Anyway, in other news, I don't know if you're familiar with Spoonie G.
Yes.
Kevin Hart's dad just passed away. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, rest in peace, Spoonie
Where
G.
was I? I didn't hear that.
It just happened. 73 years old. The cause hasn't been released, but he has a long history of he had a rough life, and the last few years he's been battling some illnesses, and I guess his time has come. But at least he and Kevin were able to rekindle their relationship, and he got to see his fruits blossom.
Kevin Hart is popular guy.
You can think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think he might be the third most popular guy.
That's crazy because he doesn't make me laugh like his jokes and his comedy, especially his movies. They don't do anything for me, but when he's on talk shows or like just in that moment, he's hilarious to me.
He's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of his movies either, but some of his recent comedy, it doesn't feel the same to me, but his earlier specials, man.
I never care for his specials, but when he gets on, when he's just live and talking, and I think he's quick-witted and
Very.
yeah. So I think that's, for me, that's what makes him funny. Where Dave Chappelle, he's more calculated in his delivery and the way he approaches it. And overall, I think he's a funnier comedian if I'm comparing, any two of them.
Some might say he's a genius.
Or could be.
Or he could be.
NBA referee Tony Brown, who officiated over 1,100 games during his 20-year career, died on Thursday. He died due to complications of pancreatic cancer. He was 55. I think his last NBA game was in 2020. So,
damn, 55.
Yeah. So, rest in peace to him.
Rest in peace. It's too young, man.
55. That's yeah. Especially just 2 years ago, you're running around with the greatest athletes in the world up and down the court. Cancer is no joke. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for
Yeah, man.
episode 2. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate if you've made it this far. If you're in your car, driving to work, taking the kids to school, whatever it is you're doing, just put us on, check us out, be part of the conversation, leave comments. We love to hear from you.
Definitely want to engage. And I'll just say, I don't know who needs to hear this, but just because someone might reject a decision that you're making doesn't mean that you're making the wrong decision. Many times, that's a sign that you're making the right decision. So be you, be strong, and we out.
And grab that D.
It's all about the D. Peace.
Peace.